Call this meeting of the Advisory Finance Committee to order. This is meeting number 32 for fiscal year 22. Today is May 23rd, 2022. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, no in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted for entirely remote meetings, which this is, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means on Westborough TV, Verizon Channel 28, or Charter Channel 192, or on youtube.com/Westborough TV. However, in the event we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. We'll dispense with the approval of minutes until after our business with the DPW this evening. John, did you want?
Okay. Yes. Thanks, everybody. Happy end of May, almost Memorial Day. I once again wanted to thank Paul Hugel. As you know, Paul's term expired, and he told me that he did not want to serve another term, so he's retiring from the committee. I believe it's 6 years that he served. So I wanted to just have us on record thanking Paul for his service and for his point of view and for his dedication to the committee. And with that said, it's my pleasure to introduce Gene Mcmahon. Gene is the Associate Dean of Finance and Administration at Boston College's Morrissey College of Arts and Science. So I had a meeting with Gene, reviewed the essentially the role and responsibilities of the committee, and he has agreed to essentially be appointed for the slot that Paul used to hold. So rather than me completely butchering his background, I'll let Gene briefly introduce himself and again say thank you, Gene, for joining the work of the committee. We all look forward to your contribution and participation.
Thanks, John. I am Gene Mcmahon. I've been in Westborough for, it'll be 20 years in June. I've been active in the community through the Civic Club and, youth sports. I was on the Little League board, the Boosters board. My children just graduated from Westborough High School in the class of 2021. I'm looking forward to serving.
Thank you, Gene. Let me add my thanks to Paul. I emailed him this afternoon with a detailed thank you, but I just want to acknowledge him publicly this evening for his work, his dedication to the committee, and his counsel. And Gene, let me add on behalf of all the voluntary members of the committee, welcome to the Advisory Finance Committee. And I guess on behalf of the committee, we'll also say good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the order of the principal reason for our meeting tonight. We have a request for an intra-departmental transfer from the Department of Public Works in the amount of $74,850. Welcome to Chris Payant, Director of the Department of Public Works, and Chris is going to take us through the details of that request. So Chris, let me turn the floor over to you.
All right, thank you. Like Mike said, Chris Payant, Director of Public Works. Tonight, we're asking to transfer funds from our wages account to our expense account. We have funding available in our wages account based on positions that were not filled or have been vacant for a significant portion of the fiscal year. And now we have some expenses that we think are legitimate expenses that need to be funded before the end of the fiscal year. And so that's the purpose for why I'm sitting here. We have 4 requests. I'll just go through them each. So the first one is for fuel. I think many are aware that fuel prices have gone up, and the DPW is responsible for maintaining the fuel tanks that supply the entire town, not just the DPW, but the schools, the police, fire, everybody else. And so we've seen each month our our costs for fuel increase. And so this request for $8,000, we believe is sufficient to allow us to pay our final bill for the fiscal year. I guess it's up to you guys. I can stop at each one, or we can go through them all and come back, however you want to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we could vote on each one of these things as Chris goes through them, sort of on a line item basis, so we could vote the entire request at the end of Chris's presentation. Any feelings one way or another? Walter?
I suggest he goes to all of them because I'd be more interested in voting, having heard all of them. And then I think it would be a simple matter to probably vote on all of them at once, is my guess.
Okay.
But I think it makes sense to get the whole lay of the land first.
If there are no objections to that, that's the way we'll proceed. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Chris?
Next one is funds to purchase a clock timer. It's $5,100. So I think everybody's familiar. We have a clock tower at the town hall. It has a bell on it. It rings on the hour. There's been discussion about, I think this has actually been something, well, over the course of many months, it's been discussion about whether the clock tower should ring or the bell should ring in the overnight hours, based on the noise and the disturbance to the local downtown neighborhood. So that's I think the primary reason, but there's also other benefits to having the timer. I mean, there's times throughout the year where we have to ring the bells. The town has to ring the bells as part of specific ceremonies at certain hours. And this timer allows that to be programmed as opposed to relying on someone to stand there and give it the old ring with the hammer kind of thing. So it's a relatively, in my opinion, inexpensive addition to the town hall that just gives us some more flexibility in how we do business. You know, you could potentially ask, or maybe a question would be, why do we need to purchase it right now? It has been in discussion for quite some time. We did say, let's kick it till the end of the year and see if there's potential funding available. In this case, there is, if we transfer it from wages. And I think that's the gist of it. We did get a quote. That's what the $5,100 is based off. That's actually several months old, but they've agreed to honor it. But I do think if we continue to kick it down the road, it's just, you know, potential. There's always a potential that can go up. And so I would recommend, and that's why I'm sitting here, that we fund it and move on. The next one is the sweeper. I think many of you recall that at town meeting, actually prior to town meeting, I think the finance committee had a meeting where I spoke to you. I identified the fact that the prices on many of our vehicles had increased. We went forward with our article at town meeting, and it was approved knowing that the approval amount at town meeting was still not enough to purchase the entire vehicle. So at the time, the proposal was that we would come back to the finance committee at a later date and recommend a course of action to fill that delta. So that delta is $44,500, which is what we're asking for tonight, again, to be pulled from wages. And that would give us the amount required to pay for the sweeper that we'd like to get on order as soon as possible. The final request is for a roof repair at the Forbes Community Center. So that's a recent event at the end of March 29th. Had a phone call that there was damage to the roof, probably caused by the wind. I sent you a picture. There's a rubber membrane that's over the entrance to the building that basically was flapping in the wind. We did some temporary work to secure it and, you know, avoid any future or immediate damage from water entering the building, but that needs to be repaired. And so the cost to repair it is $16,750. It's not something we have in our budget to spend right now, but I Personally, I just believe that repairs like this shouldn't be kicked down the road because they just end up leading to more costs later for a variety of reasons. And so sitting here tonight asking for that funding to be transferred so that we can move out with that repair. So those are the 4 items that we're asking about tonight. And I'm happy to speak to any questions. But I just want to emphasize that this is, I know you know this, but for anybody that might watch this at a later date, or I don't know if it's being aired right now, but this is money that's in the DPW budget. It's just in a bucket that we can't access for expenses, and there's funding available. So we think it's a smart decision to purchase spend the money on these 4 items now and move forward.
Okay. Melanie, you have a question. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The money is coming from a bucket of employment that we didn't have, correct? Like positions that we didn't fill?
Generally, yes. Yeah, I mean, yes.
Okay. So my only question is, at your current staffing, is that sustainable, or are these positions that really need to be filled and we just either can't find people to fill it?
Yep. So we've actually filled the positions. We filled our last vacancy in the last month or so. This is just an accumulation over the course of the year where we didn't spend this money, and so because we didn't have to pay somebody. So that's what led to the availability of the funding. But we have all of our vacancies filled now, and we have all the appropriate funding to pay them through the end of fiscal year, and then obviously for next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Walter, then Andrew.
Okay, thanks. Can you go through the numbers again? It was 8,051, 44,500, and 16,750.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, because I got a different total.
I think my total is 74,350.
Yeah, that's what I have.
There might have been an error on the
Okay.
because I think Mike read something off, but my number shows adding those up is 74,350. So we might have a typo.
Yeah, I agree with that number. The request form says 850 as well, but I guess we can make the motion. Would you want us?
But the amount we need is, I mean, of course, I can always find money to spend or things to spend, but that 74,350 is what we're looking for.
Okay. And roof repairs, it's already done. This is a matter of paying for it, right? Or
No.
You haven't.
We did a temporary repair.
Okay.
Basically just tacked the membrane back down, but it needs to be taken off. The roof needs to be pulled back a little bit so we can properly flash it and everything else. So no, we have not done it, but the contractor is ready to do it as soon as we have the funding available.
Okay, and my last question, I guess, is going forward for next fiscal year, we budgeted something for fuel. Have we under budgeted fuel? It's not exactly related to your request other than of general interest.
Yep, we, we didn't increase our budget specifically to address recent inflation. And this has been discussed with the finance director and the town manager. Basically, our approach is let's see how it plays out the first part of the fiscal year. And then if we need to come back, maybe at October town meeting to make some adjustment, then we can, but let's just keep it steady for now.
Okay, yeah, because I would probably prefer that to trying to do it out of AFC emergency funds at, this time next year or something. So, but okay, I'm all set. Thanks.
Andrew?
Hi, Chris. I had questions on 2 of the topics. First, the easy one. With regards to the timer, is this about what's the useful life of this timer, do you think?
I don't actually have an answer to that. I can probably find out. I wouldn't be able to find out now or tonight, but I would anticipate that we're going to get, I don't know, I would imagine decades out of it, but I can't say for sure.
Well, and maybe the way to frame the question in a way that addresses my concerns is, I want to make sure we're not spending a lot of money, or that thought has been put into not spending a lot of money for something technical that's going to break in 3 years, versus other alternatives we might have looked at that might be expected to last, maybe not so digital, maybe more mechanical that would last longer. Maybe you can just speak to that in terms of how you looked at getting the right sort of device for the job.
Yeah, I can't explain the exact mechanics of it, but it's a relatively simplistic mechanism that it does work off a timer, and there's some gadgetry that just basically is mounted next to the tower. I would feel comfortable saying I don't think we're going to have a concern with its reliability or its ability to be worth the cost we're spending over the lifetime of its use.
I love it. Thank you. And my other question had to do with the Forbes building. And I know that there's been work, or there is the potential work being put into studying some of these extraneous old buildings. And extraneous is probably not the right word for it, but like some of the peripheral old buildings that we have around the town. And can you speak to what you know of the longer term prognosis of this building being with us? And whether it's still going to remain a town asset for whatever it's being used for?
As far as I know, it's intended to be used for what it's being used for indefinitely. I suppose there's always opportunities there where it could be looked at for something else, but I don't know what the future is, long term for the building. I haven't heard of any discussion about changing its use. I think regardless,
right,
we need to fix the roof, and whatever its use is, it's even if for some reason we got rid of it, we'd still probably want to get rid of it with a roof that's functional.
I appreciate that you haven't heard any further long-standing details. So thank you for answering the questions.
Any other questions? Walter?
I don't have a question, but I'm willing to make a motion.
Well, I just have one question before you do that.
Sure.
Chris, the O&M budget for the building is exhausted for this year.
Yes.
What do you
Yes.
anticipate the need is going to be for next year? I mean, if you exhausted 4,000 already.
Yeah. So, I mean, you picked up on my point. I think you guys all saw my email, which is a summary of, what I just said. And, we've held steady, at least for the last 2 years, at $4,000 for that building. But I think anybody that just runs a house knows that it costs you a lot of money to maintain your house. So I'm not answering your question directly, but all these times we come to you for additional money. We've already have earlier this year, you guys, when we came for some furnaces at the country club and at the DPW. I mean, we keep all this on list because so when we come back and speak to you and ask for, potential increases in our budget, the question that we often get, not necessarily from you, but is why do you need that more money? And give us something concrete. And I can't give you something specific, but I can tell you that next year something's going to break. This year it's a roof. Next year it's a furnace. The year after that it's something else. And so specifically for this building, I don't know that we're going to ask for much more because it's a relatively simple building and it's in decent shape and it doesn't get a lot of activity inside of it. So I'm hoping, we could figure out how to make it pretty close to what it is and make that work because I do think that we'll be asking for more money on some of the other buildings because they're higher use. And I think these examples are the evidence that say that it costs money to take care of these buildings. And so, so I didn't really answer your question necessarily, but the point is that this is why we ask for the money we ask for O&M, because I just don't think it's a smart thing to defer these issues. Like I said up front, we end up paying for it later in some form or fashion, probably a lot more.
And no, you answered sufficiently. I mean, we don't know what we don't know in many respects with regard to O&M. But given our recent experience with the Armstrong and the Hastings schools, particularly on the roofs, obviously these old buildings are, cycling through now, and it looks like they're going to absorb more cash. I just want to make sure we're prepared to deal with that without having to go through emergency meetings.
And actually, Andrew mentioned something I didn't touch on, but we are conducting, or intend to be conducting, as soon as we can get someone on board to do it, an assessment of a couple of our buildings, specifically the Harvey and the Country Club, and potentially some aspect of this building we're talking about. And once that assessment's complete, that will give us a pretty good picture O&M wise for the future. And so that'll be a good document that we have that's very objective in terms of telling us what we think our needs are. So so that's in progress, not done yet, but something that will help us.
Just one other little comment. Sorry, it's probably in bad taste, but if we could find where Quasimodo is, we could probably solve the bell ringing, except that we'd have to pick up salary and other benefits. So I think the timer choice is substantially a better bang for the buck. Anyway, Walter will entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that the Advisory Finance Committee approves a transfer from DPW salary and wages and to DPW expenses for $8,000 for fuel, $5,100 for a clock timer, $44,500 for part of the sweeper, $16,750 for roof repair to the Forbes community building, for a total of $74,350.
Is there a second to that motion?
Siddiqui, second.
Okay, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Do we need to know the account numbers, or that's sufficient?
I think this is sufficient for now.
Yeah.
When I sign off on this, I just hand it right over to Leah, and she adds the.
He knows the account.
Knows the account numbers.
Very good.
Okay. Now, Walter said with Paul leaving and Gene joining, it really messes up our alphabetical voting. So I'll just go by name. I'll just call your name, and we'll start. Melanie?
Ford, yes.
Andrew?
Bradley, yes.
Tom?
Dolan, yes.
Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Gene?
McMahon, yes.
Zaffer?
Siddiqui, yes.
Beretti, yes. So we are approved 7-0.
700.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, Mike, just make sure, since the number was different than the one that was on the email attachment, just make sure when they're adding the account numbers that the right number gets put on it too before you sign.
I've already made a pen change with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just know these forms matter that they're signed correctly. So great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, thank you very much for taking the time this evening. We appreciate it, and good luck going forward with all of this.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, let's move on to the minutes of May 9th. You've all had a chance to look at them, I take it. May I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Motion to approve the minutes of May 9th.
Second?
Dolan,
Bradley,
second.
second.
Any further discussion on those minutes? Okay, if not, we'll go to a vote. again, Melanie,
Ford, yes.
Andrew,
Bradley, yes.
Tom,
Dolan, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
Gene,
McMahon abstain?
Zaffer,
Siddiqui, yes.
Moretti, yes.
601.
All right, I've got just a couple of quick housekeeping things that I just want to make note of. With Paul's departure, we're going to have to do so, and Hank's soon-to-be departure, we are going to have to do a realignment of the liaison assignments, and we'll try to get that taken care of before the summer is out. If anybody has any thoughts about what they'd like to do, Hank is he's leaving two big departments. One is schools and the other is DPW. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. The second item is we've had this discussion before, and it's a question of whether or not we want to start looking into the dual taxation rate. I'm not saying we have to do it today, if you know what I mean. But, you know, there's always a lot of discussion around it every time town meeting comes up and there's issues of taxation. And my thought still remains that we owe it to the town folks and the businesses and ourselves, frankly, to take a look at this thing and try to give a recommendation as to where we should go as a town. And I'm not advocating for one methodology or another. So I'm going to get this on an agenda, if it's okay with you folks, in the very near future. And we'll take it as probably a single item for discussion, and then we'll probably have a lot of research to get done. So maybe we can lay out a research plan, understand who we have to deal with, and gather as much information as we can. And it probably will involve asking people like John Steinberg to come in and meet with us, and even the folks from the Economic Development Committee and any selectmen that may have an interest in this matter. I imagine they all would, to have that kind of conversation around this topic, and then eventually we, as the Finance Committee, will come up with a recommendation to the town. Any questions about that? Any concerns? Walter?
No concerns. I was just throwing out the idea that there's a committee of, I think, 3 people that end up giving a recommendation to the select board, and maybe that committee also might want to be polled.
Who is that?
It's some kind of tax.
Oh,
the
it's
guy who actually said, you know, I don't know, John Steinberg will know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know who's on that committee, but they vote every year.
Right. John is one of them.
Oh, okay. So he's one of the 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So probably
Okay.
fine.
Well, yeah. Okay, and so that's it. Are there any liaison reports? Okay. For future draft agendas, I just want to remind you that our next meeting is on next Tuesday, the 31st. Right now, it's scheduled for 6 p.m. Stand by in case there is a change, because I made a request to the town manager to either push it to 6:30 or 7 o'clock. We'll be meeting with the select board, and the meeting is tentatively scheduled for the Forbes building for Great Hall. I will be getting back to you, I'm sure. Christy will probably get back to you directly over the next few days as the date gets closer. Okay.
What's that meeting about, Mike?
We're going to be talking about the ARPA funding.
Oh, this is follow-up of the ARPA funding? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion about any item? Great, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tom.
Bradley, second.
Bradley seconds. Okay, here we go again. Voice vote. Melanie.
Ford, yes.
Andrew.
Bradley, yes.
Tom.
Dolan, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
Gene,
McMahon, yes.
Zephyr.
Siddiq, yes. Siddiq, yes.
Already, yes. Folks, thank you very, very much. Welcome again, Gene.
Welcome.
John, thanks again for your participation. And we'll see you all on the 31st for the meeting with the Select Board. Have a great evening, everybody. Enjoy the holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Westborough TV.
Thank you. Thank you, Aiden.
Thanks,
Thanks,
all.
Mike.
Cheers.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.